What to do if you get sued by a debt collector. Brought to you by T-Rex Hogan at LegalSelfDefense.biz. Black belt training for people being sued by debt collectors. Over the past few years, there's been an explosion of lawsuits brought by debt collectors. If you're getting sued, you'll probably find out in an unpleasant way. But don't let the surprise throw you off. If you are being sued, you can protect yourself without hiring an expensive lawyer. It's a sad fact. In most debt cases, defendants will either give up and agree to pay the debt collector everything they want, or just fail to show up in court and lose the case. But you should remember that failure to defend yourself brings all your nightmares much closer to reality. Don't let this happen to you. Remember, they can't take your money or things until they have a judgment. If they get a judgment, though, they can collect it any time and without any warning. Once a judgment is entered, your wages and bank accounts can be seized. So let's start with the definition. What is debt? This almost seems like a no-brainer, but it isn't. Debt is money that someone claims you owe that you somehow agreed to pay to them. You might not actually owe the money. You may never have borrowed it, might have paid it off, or even had it discharged in bankruptcy. Or the debt might not be valid for any number of reasons, and this is especially true of claims brought by third-party debt collectors. The FTC found that over 80% of the money one large debt collector got came from people who never even owed the debt to anybody. People paid because of the company's strong-arm tactics and intimidation. And there are a lot of other companies that are just like that. Almost all the claims brought by third-party debt collectors have some questionable parts. But if a company is suing you for money it claims you owe, you are being sued on a debt. If you fail to defend yourself, they'll get a judgment against you whether you ever owed the money or not. Two kinds of people could sue you. The original creditor, the person who lent you the money or sold you something, or a debt collector. I often refer to debt collectors as third-party debt collectors to highlight the fact that they have gotten the debt somehow, either by buying it or some other way, from other people. Third-party debt collectors buy debt for pennies on the dollar and then try to collect it through harassing phone calls, threatening letters, or lawsuits. So what should you do if you're sued? Fight. Debt collectors make big money on chasing people who give up, and they stand to lose money on anyone who fights, regardless of whether or not they win. And that's simply because if you fight, an expensive lawyer has to spend time on the case, and the costs of this add up very quickly. And in the final analysis, your chances of winning are actually pretty good if you fight. That's because debt collectors buy huge amounts of debt at a time. Sometimes it's very old. They rarely get the documentation needed to prove their case against you, and that's because it's expensive to get, and in many cases it simply does not exist at all. A lot of times the original creditors will actually destroy or lose their records, making it impossible for a debt collector to win a lawsuit against you and force you to pay. And it's always expensive for them to get their evidence and prove their case. But you must make them do it. You never know if they have what they need if you don't make them show you. And in most cases, you'll never know anyway, because if you fight back, the debt collector will likely drop the suit against you. If you know how to fight. And that's where we come in. It's just too expensive for them to fight profitably if you fight. So what do you risk if you stand up and fight? Actually, almost nothing. If they can get attorney's fees at all, they always ask for them right from the start. And if they win, they almost always get exactly the same amount of money whether you fight or not. If you want to settle, the company will almost always give you a better deal after you fight a little while. And I've never seen them give anyone a worse deal because they did put up a fight. But you should think hard before you settle, because the debt collectors will often give up if you keep fighting. You can find help in defending yourself. Go to legalselfdefense.biz. Black belt training for people being sued by debt collectors.